The diner smelled like burnt coffee and decades of grease that no amount of bleach could ever truly erase. I wiped down the same sticky table for the third time, my lower back screaming in protest. 14 hours into a double shift, and my feet had gone numb somewhere around hour 9. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering in that maddening rhythm that made my exhaustion feel like something physical, crawling under my skin. "Table 6 needs ketchup," Denise barked from behind the counter, not bothering to look up from her phone. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me, and grabbed the bottle from the station. My reflection caught in the grimy window, hair pulled back in a messy bun, uniform stained with what I hoped was just marinara sauce, dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide anymore. 23 years old, and I looked like I'd lived twice that. The night rain had started again, drumming against the windows and sheets. It was nearly midnight on a Tuesday, and the diner was mercifully empty, except for 2 truck drivers nursing coffee in the corner booth and an old woman who came in every night at 11:30 to order the same slice of apple pie. I delivered the ketchup, forced a smile that felt like it might crack my face, and retreated to the kitchen doorway. Through the window, I watched the rain create rivers in the parking lot, the neon sign reflecting pink and blue in the puddles. Somewhere out there was a life I used to imagine for myself. College, maybe. Or at least a job where I didn't smell like French fry oil at the end of every shift. But life had other plans. It usually did. The bell above the door chimed, and I straightened automatically, reaching for my order pad. But the man who stepped inside made me freeze. He didn't belong here. That was my first thought. Immediate and visceral. Everything about him was wrong for this place. The way he moved, unhurried but purposeful, like he owned not just the diner, but the entire block, the street, maybe the whole damn city. Water dripped from his charcoal suit jacket, and even wet. I could tell it cost more than I made in 6 months. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, no tie, but somehow that made him look more dangerous rather than casual. Dark hair, slightly longer than conventional, was pushed back from his face, and even from across the room, I could see the sharp line of his jaw, the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or wanted posters. He wasn't alone. Behind him, a mountain of a man in a black suit stepped through the door, scanning the diner with eyes that missed nothing. He positioned himself by the entrance, hands clasped in front of him, and didn't move. Didn't sit. Just watched. The man in the wetsuit walked to the counter, and I noticed the way everyone else seemed to shrink. The truck drivers suddenly became very interested in their coffee. The old woman looked down at her pie. Even Denise straightened up, her phone disappearing into her apron pocket. Coffee. Black. His voice was low, textured like smoke and expensive whiskey. He didn't say please. Men like him didn't have to. I grabbed a clean mug. We kept a few in the back for the rare customer who deserved better than our chipped standard issue, and poured carefully. My hands were shaking. I didn't know why. I told myself it was just exhaustion. Up close, he was devastating. Not handsome in a safe, friendly way, but beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. Dangerous. His eyes were dark, almost black in the diner's harsh lighting. And when they fixed on me, I felt pinned in place like a butterfly on a board. "Rough night?" he asked, and there was something almost amused in his tone. I set the coffee down, careful not to spill. "Every night's rough in here." The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "I can imagine." He didn't touch the coffee, just stood there, studying me with an intensity that made my skin feel too tight. I could smell him now. Something expensive and dark. Cedar and leather and something else I couldn't name. It cut through the grease and coffee smell like a knife through butter. "You work here every night?" he asked. It felt like an innocent question. It probably wasn't. "Most nights. Double shifts when I can get them. That why you look like you're about to collapse?" I bristled, my exhaustion making me bold. That's what happens when rent is due and tips are shit. His eyes flashed with something, surprise maybe, or interest. Honest. I like that. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out. No, phones, plural. He had 2, I realized. He glanced at the screen of one, his expression hardening in a way that made the temperature in the room seem to drop. "I need to make a call," he said, more to the mountain by the door than to me. Keep the coffee hot. He walked to the far corner booth, the one with the broken jukebox, and sat with his back to the wall. I noticed he positioned himself where he could see both exits. The mountain stayed by the door. I busied myself with wiping down the counter, but I couldn't stop glancing at him. He was on the phone now, speaking in low tones I couldn't hear. His free hand drummed once against the table, then stopped. That was the only sign of agitation I could see. 10 minutes later, he stood, pulled out a wallet from his inside jacket pocket, black leather, thick with what I assumed were $100 bills. He extracted one and placed it on the counter. Even though the coffee was maybe $2 at most, keep the change, he said, already moving toward the door. And then he was gone, the mountain following him like a shadow. Through the window, I watched them climb into a black SUV with tinted windows that had been idling in the parking lot. I hadn't even noticed it pull up. The truck drivers released a collective breath. Jesus Christ, one of them muttered. You know who that was? I shook my head, pocketing the $100 bill with shaking fingers. Better you don't, sweetheart. Better you don't. The rest of my shift blurred together. At 2 a.m., Denise finally let me go, and I gathered my things from the break room, a threadbare jacket, my dying phone, my keys. I was so tired I could barely see straight. The parking lot was empty except for my beat-up Honda and one other car, a sleek black sedan that definitely hadn't been there when I arrived. I ignored it, too exhausted to care. I was halfway to my car when I saw it. A wallet, black leather, lying in a puddle near where the SUV had been parked. My tired brain took a moment to process. Then I picked it up, water dripping from my fingers. Inside was an ID, no, several IDs, which should have been my first warning. Credit cards with different names and a thick stack of cash, but it was the first ID that made my blood run cold. The name meant nothing to me, but the face did. The man from the diner. And behind the plastic window, barely visible, was a business card with just a phone number. No name. No company. Just numbers. I should have left it. Should have dropped it back in the puddle and pretended I'd never seen it. Instead, with trembling fingers and a conscience that had always been too loud for my own good, I pulled out my phone and dialed the number. It rang once, twice. Then a voice, smooth as silk and sharp as broken glass. Who is this? I found a wallet in the parking lot of Rosie's diner. I think it belongs to... Don't move. The line went dead. I stood there in the rain, wallet in hand, and realized I'd just made a mistake. A massive, potentially life-altering mistake. Because the sedan that had been parked across the lot suddenly came to life, its headlights flaring bright, and it began rolling toward me with the slow, inevitable approach of a predator who just found prey. My heart hammered against my ribs. The car stopped 10 feet away, the back door opened, and he stepped out. Even in the rain, even with water streaming down his face, he was terrifying. Not because he looked angry, his expression was perfectly calm. That was worse somehow. Like I was a problem he'd already calculated how to solve. You called, he said, and it wasn't a question. I found your wallet. I just wanted to return it. My voice came out smaller than I intended. I work here. I saw you earlier, and you thought you'd do a good deed. He took a step closer. I took a step back. Honest to a fault. That's dangerous, you know. I was just trying to help. Help. He repeated the word like it was foreign to him. When did you find it? Just now, after my shift. It was in the parking lot where your car was. He studied me for a long moment, rain plastering my hair to my face, my uniform soaked through. I must have looked pathetic. I felt pathetic. Then he held out his hand, the wallet. I gave it to him, and our fingers brushed. His were warm despite the rain. Mine were freezing. He opened the wallet, checked the contents with quick efficiency, then looked back at me. Nothing missing. I didn't. No, he said softly. You wouldn't. Most people would have kept the cash at least, but not you. There was something in his voice I couldn't identify. Curiosity, maybe, or calculation. What's your name? He asked. I hesitated. Giving my name felt like giving him power, but refusing felt more dangerous. Emma Pierce, Emma. He said it slowly, like he was tasting it. You live around here? Every instinct screamed not to answer. Why? Because it's 2 a.m. You're soaked to the bone and you look like you're about to fall over. Where's your car? I pointed weakly at the Honda, with its dented bumper and rust spots. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. That thing runs? Most days. Not tonight, it won't. He gestured to the sedan. Get in. I'm not getting in a car with a stranger. I'm not a stranger. You just returned my wallet. That makes us acquainted. His eyes held mine. And I don't leave debts unpaid. You did me a favor. Now I do you one. I give you a ride home. I'm fine. Really, it's not a request, Emma. The way he said my name made something low in my stomach tighten with fear, and something else I didn't want to examine. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Every cell in my body knew it, but I was so tired, and the rain was so cold, and something in his voice made it clear that refusing would create more problems than accepting. Just a ride, I heard myself say. That's all. His smile was sharp enough to cut. Of course. Just a ride. He opened the back door of the sedan wider, waited. I climbed in, the leather interior warm and smelling like money and danger. He slid in beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. The mountain from the diner was in the driver's seat. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge me. Just started the engine. Address, the man beside me said. I gave it. The driver pulled out of the lot smoothly, professionally. Silence filled the car, thick and suffocating. I pressed myself against the door, trying to maintain distance, trying not to think about how small the back seat suddenly felt. You always work double shifts? He asked, his voice cutting through the quiet. When I can. Saving for something? Living, surviving, existing. The exhaustion was making me honest again, dangerously honest. Take your pick. No family? Not anymore. Something flickered across his face, understanding, maybe, or recognition. I know what that's like. We pulled up to my apartment building, a crumbling complex in the worst part of town, where the streetlights were always broken and the front door didn't lock properly. I felt his gaze taking it all in, cataloging every detail. This is where you live? Shame burned hot in my chest. Not all of us can afford the penthouse. No, he said quietly. I suppose not. The driver got out, opened my door. I climbed out quickly, desperate to escape the confined space, the intensity of his presence. But he got out too, stood in front of me in the rain. Thank you for returning my wallet, Emma Pierce. You're welcome. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a card. Different from the one with just the number. This one had a name, Marcus Cole, and a business address I didn't recognize. If you ever need anything, he said, pressing it into my palm. Call. I won't need anything from you. His smile was sad, almost pitying. Everyone needs something eventually, and when you do, I pay my debts. Then he was back in the car, and they were pulling away, taillights disappearing into the rainy night. I stood there, card in hand, water dripping from my hair, and wondered what the hell had just happened. Inside my apartment, a studio barely big enough for my mattress on the floor and a hot plate. I peeled off my wet clothes and stood shaking in the dark. The card sat on my makeshift counter, white against the peeling laminate. Marcus Cole. I didn't know that name, but something told me I would. Something told me that returning that wallet had changed everything. I just didn't know yet whether I'd saved myself or damned myself. The rain continued to fall outside, and in the distance, sirens wailed their familiar song. I lay down on my mattress, pulled my threadbare blanket up to my chin, and tried not to think about dark eyes and dangerous smiles, tried not to wonder why a man who could have anything would bother with someone like me, tried not to acknowledge the horrible, terrifying truth that was already taking root in my chest. I wanted to see him again. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, Marcus Cole, with his predator's grace, and eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense I'd ever built. The card stayed on the counter, a small rectangle of expensive cardstock that felt like it was radiating heat in my tiny apartment. By the time dawn broke, gray and unwelcoming through my single window, I'd almost convinced myself it had been a dream. A hallucination brought on by exhaustion and too many double shifts. Then I saw the card again, and I knew it was real. I dragged myself to the diner for another shift, my body protesting every movement. Denise barely looked up when I arrived, just jerked her thumb toward my section. The morning rush was sparse, a few construction workers, some insomniacs nursing hangovers, the usual scattered souls who populated the space between night and day. I was refilling coffee for a regular when I felt it. That prickle on the back of my neck that meant someone was watching me. Through the window, parked directly across the street where I couldn't possibly miss it, was the black sedan from last night. The same one. I was sure of it. My hand trembled, coffee sloshing dangerously close to the rim of the cup. "You all right, sweetheart?" the regular asked, concerned. "Fine," I lied, setting down the pot with shaking hands. "Just tired." The sedan stayed there all morning. Through the breakfast rush, through the mid-morning lull, through my 15-minute break that I spent in the bathroom staring at my reflection and trying to calm my racing heart, he was having me watched. Why? Because I'd returned his wallet? That made no sense. Unless the wallet hadn't been lost at all. The realization hit me like ice water. A test. It had been a test, and I'd either passed or failed spectacularly. I just didn't know which yet. At noon, the sedan pulled away. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt strangely abandoned, which was insane. I didn't want his attention. I didn't want anything to do with Marcus Cole or his dangerous eyes, or the way he'd looked at me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. My shift ended at 3. I gathered my things from the break room. Tips had been decent today, enough to cover groceries at least, and stepped out into the afternoon sun. The sedan was back. This time the rear window rolled down, and I saw him. Marcus Cole, looking somehow even more devastating in daylight, wearing a different suit, navy this time, perfectly tailored, and an expression I couldn't read. "Get in, Emma." It wasn't a request. Again. "I'm not. You are." He opened the door from inside. "We need to talk." Every rational part of my brain screamed to run, to go back inside the diner, to call. Who? The police? And say what? That a man who'd done nothing but give me a ride home was now offering another? But there was steel in his voice, and something in his eyes that said running would be pointless. If Marcus Cole wanted to talk to me, we were going to talk. The only question was whether I made it easy or difficult. I got in the car. He didn't touch me, didn't move closer, but I felt trapped anyway. The door closed with a solid, expensive thunk. The driver, the same mountain from last night, pulled smoothly into traffic. "Where are we going?" I asked, proud that my voice came out steady. "Lunch." "I'm not hungry." "You're always hungry, Emma. I can see it in your face. When's the last time you had a real meal? Not diner food. Real food." The accuracy of the observation stung. "That's none of your business. You made it my business when you called that number." He turned to face me fully, one arm draped casually along the back of the seat. "Tell me something. Why did you call?" "The truth." "I told you. To return your wallet. You could have left it at the diner, turned it into lost and found, kept the cash and thrown the rest away. But you called a number on a card without knowing who you were calling. Why?" I met his eyes, refusing to look away even though it felt like staring into the sun. Because it was the right thing to do. The right thing. He said it like I'd spoken a foreign language. "Do you know how rare that is, Emma? How rare you are?" "I'm not rare. I'm broke, exhausted, and way out of my depth here. So why don't you just tell me what you want?" His smile was sharp and approving. "There's that honesty again. What I want is to understand you. You live in a neighborhood where people steal to survive, yet you returned a wallet full of cash. You work yourself to exhaustion for minimum wage and tips. You have no family, no safety net, and yet you refuse help from someone who could make your life considerably easier. Why? Because help from men like you comes with strings. Men like me." He leaned back, studying me. "What kind of man do you think I am? Dangerous. Smart girl. The approval in his voice made something warm unfurl in my chest, which was absolutely the wrong reaction. But danger isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's the only thing standing between you and worse dangers. The car pulled to a stop. I looked out to see we'd arrived at a restaurant I'd walked past 100 times, but never dreamed of entering. The kind of place where reservations were made months in advance, and the cheapest item on the menu cost more than my weekly grocery budget. "I can't afford this," I said automatically. "You're not paying." He was already out of the car, the driver holding his door. Then my door opened, and Marcus was there, offering his hand. I didn't take it. Got out on my own, even though my legs felt unsteady. Something flickered in his eyes, amusement or frustration, I couldn't tell. Inside, the maitre d' took one look at Marcus and practically fell over himself to accommodate us. We were led to a private corner booth, secluded from the rest of the dining room by frosted glass panels and artfully placed plants. Marcus waited until I sat before taking his own seat. The waiter appeared instantly, and Marcus ordered without looking at the menu. For both of us, I realized with irritation. "I can order for myself," I said when the waiter left. "You don't know what's good here. And you do?" I own the place. Of course he did. The food arrived impossibly fast, probably because the kitchen had been alerted the owner was dining. It was beautiful, almost too beautiful to eat. Seared scallops that smelled like heaven, some kind of risotto that gleamed like pearls, vegetables I couldn't even name. My stomach growled audibly, Marcus's lips twitched. "Eat, Emma." I wanted to refuse on principle, but I was so hungry, and it smelled so good, and pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. The first bite nearly made me moan. I caught myself, but not before I saw the satisfaction in his eyes. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I tried not to devour everything like a starving animal, tried to maintain some dignity, but God, when was the last time I'd tasted something that wasn't fried or microwaved? "Tell me about your family," Marcus said suddenly. I set down my fork. "Why?" "Because I'm curious, and because you're going to tell me." The arrogance should have made me angry. Instead, I found myself answering, "There's nothing to tell. My mom died when I was 17. Cancer. I've been on my own since. No father? Never met him. He left before I was born." I picked up my fork again, pushing risotto around my plate. "My turn." "What do you really do, Marcus Cole?" "I'm a businessman." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you need. The wallet," I said quietly. "That was a test, wasn't it? You wanted to see what I'd do." He didn't deny it. "I needed to know what kind of person you were." "And what's the verdict?" "You're exactly what you appear to be. Honest, stubborn, too brave for your own good." He leaned forward, his intensity pinning me in place. "Do you know how dangerous that is, Emma? In my world, people like you don't survive. I'm not in your world. You are now. The moment you called that number, you stepped into it." His hand moved across the table, not touching me but close enough that I could feel the heat. "And I don't let go of things that belong to me. I don't belong to anyone. Not yet." The promise in those 2 words made my breath catch. "But you will, Emma, because I'm going to give you a choice. You can walk away right now, go back to your double shifts and your falling apart apartment, and your slow march toward burnout, or you can let me help you." "Help me do what?" "Live. Actually live instead of just surviving." His eyes held mine. "I'm offering you a job. Better pay, better hours, better everything. All you have to do is say yes." It sounded too good to be true, which meant it definitely was. "What's the catch?" "No catch, just loyalty. You work for me, you're under my protection. But you don't lie to me, you don't betray me, and you don't refuse when I ask something of you." That sounds like a lot of catches. His smile was wolf-sharp. Semantics. I should have said no. Should have walked out of that restaurant and never looked back. But I thought about my apartment, about the electricity bill I couldn't pay, about the student loans from the 1 semester of college I'd managed before my mother got sick, about the slow, grinding poverty that was swallowing me whole, and I thought about the way Marcus looked at me. Like I mattered. Like I was something precious he intended to keep. It was insane. It was dangerous. "What kind of job?" I heard myself ask. Victory flashed in his eyes. I need someone I can trust, someone whose loyalty can't be bought. You'd start as my personal assistant, handle appointments, correspondence, things that require discretion. I have no experience with any of that. You'll learn. You're smart, I can tell. And more importantly, you're honest. That's worth more than experience. The waiter appeared to clear our plates. Marcus ordered dessert without asking if I wanted any. I was starting to notice that about him. He made decisions and expected the world to accommodate them. The scary part was that it did. I need to think about it, I said. No, you don't. You've already decided. He tilted his head, studying me. You're just afraid of what saying yes means. He was right, and I hated that he was right. 24 hours, I said. Give me 24 hours to think. 12. I'll have my driver pick you up tomorrow afternoon. 2 o'clock. Be ready, and if I say no, something dark crossed his face. Then you say no. I won't force you, Emma, but you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if. And that's its own kind of prison. The dessert arrived. Something chocolate and decadent. I ate it mechanically, barely tasting it, my mind spinning. When we left the restaurant, the sedan was waiting. Marcus held the door for me this time, and I let him. Small concessions. Building patterns. He drove me back to my apartment, walked me to my door despite my protests. Tomorrow, Emma, 2 o'clock. Don't make me wait. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a decision that felt like it would define the rest of my life. I called in sick to the diner the next morning. Denise sounded annoyed but unsurprised. I never called in sick, which probably made it more believable. I spent the hours until 2 o'clock pacing my tiny apartment. The business card Marcus had given me burning a hole in my pocket. Every rational thought said to run, to not be there when that sedan pulled up, to disappear into the anonymity of the city and pray that Marcus Cole would forget about the broke waitress who'd returned his wallet. But I thought about the electricity bill, about the leak in my ceiling that my landlord refused to fix, about the gnawing, constant hunger that came from rationing meals to make my paycheck stretch. And I thought about the way Marcus had looked at me, like I was valuable, like I mattered. At exactly 2 o'clock, the black sedan pulled up outside my building. I grabbed my jacket, my only jacket, and went downstairs before I could change my mind. The mountain was driving again. He nodded once when I approached, opened the back door. Marcus wasn't inside this time, and I felt an odd mixture of relief and disappointment. We drove in silence through parts of the city I'd never seen, where the buildings grew taller and sleeker, where everything gleamed with money and power. Finally, we pulled up to a high-rise that seemed to touch the clouds, all glass and steel and intimidating architecture. Mr. Cole is expecting you. 42nd floor, the driver said, his first words to me ever. Inside, the lobby was all marble and modern art. The security guard took one look at me, in my second-hand clothes and worn sneakers, and frowned. But when I gave Marcus's name, his expression shifted to something like respect, or fear. The elevator was mirrored on all sides. I watched my reflection multiply into infinity as we rose, higher and higher, my stomach dropping with each floor. The doors opened directly into an office that took up the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that made me dizzy. The furnishings were minimalist but clearly expensive, dark wood, leather, chrome accents. And there was Marcus, standing by the window with his back to me, phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking in a language I didn't recognize, Italian maybe, or something similar. His tone was sharp, commanding. He ended the call abruptly when he heard the elevator, turned to face me. You came. Satisfaction colored his voice. I'm here to talk. That's all. Of course. He gestured to a chair in front of his massive desk. Sit. I sat. He remained standing, which put me at a disadvantage. I suspected that was intentional. Have you made your decision? He asked. I have questions first. Ask. What exactly would I be doing? And don't give me vague answers about being your assistant. Specifics. He smiled, like he approved of my directness. You'd manage my schedule, handle correspondence, attend meetings with me, screen calls. Some travel would be required. You'd have access to sensitive information, which means absolute discretion is non-negotiable. And the pay? He named a figure that made my heart stop. It was more than I made in 6 months at the diner. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. That's too much. That's what loyalty costs, Emma. What I demand in return is worth every penny. He moved around the desk, perching on the edge closest to me. You'd start immediately. Today, if you accept, I'll have an apartment arranged for you. Something appropriate, in a safe neighborhood. I have an apartment. That's not an apartment. That's a box with a door that doesn't lock properly in a building that should be condemned. His voice hardened. You work for me. You live somewhere I don't have to worry about your safety every moment of every day. Why do you care about my safety? He leaned forward, close enough that I could smell that intoxicating scent again. Cedar and danger. Because you're mine now, Emma, and I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent heat curling through my veins. I don't belong to anyone, I whispered. Keep telling yourself that. He stood, pulled a folder from his desk drawer. Employment contract. Read it, sign it, or walk away and go back to slowly killing yourself for minimum wage. I took the folder with shaking hands. The contract was surprisingly straightforward. Salary, benefits that were almost obscenely good, a non-disclosure agreement that was ironclad. But there was a clause near the end that made me pause. What's this about exclusivity? You work for me and only me. No other employment, no sharing information about your work, no divided loyalties. This sounds less like a job and more like ownership. Semantics again. His eyes glittered. I require absolute loyalty, Emma. In return, you get security, protection, and a life that doesn't involve praying your car starts every morning. Are those terms acceptable? I should have asked for a lawyer to review it. Should have taken time to consider. Should have done 100 things that a smart person would do. Instead, I picked up the pen he offered and signed my name. The smile that crossed his face was triumphant and predatory all at once. Smart girl. He took the contract, countersigned it, then pressed a button on his desk phone. Send her in. A woman entered moments later, tall, elegant, perfectly put together in a designer suit. She looked at me with barely concealed assessment. This is Catherine. She'll help you get situated. New wardrobe, apartment viewing, all the logistics. Marcus turned to me. You start tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. Tomorrow? But I haven't even... Quit your job at the diner? Consider it done. I'll have someone handle it. He was already moving back to his desk, dismissing me. Catherine will take care of everything else. Go. I stood on shaky legs, following Catherine back to the elevator. In the mirrored walls, I caught one last glimpse of Marcus watching me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Something between satisfaction and hunger. The doors closed, and Catherine finally spoke. You're either very lucky or very foolish. I haven't decided which yet. What do you mean? Marcus Cole doesn't hire personal assistants. He has people for that. Accountants, schedulers, managers. When he says he needs someone he can trust, what he means is he needs someone close. Close enough to see things others don't. Close enough to be... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Important. Important how? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's for you to figure out. But word of advice? Don't fall in love with him. Women who love Marcus Cole don't end up happy. Before I could respond, the elevator opened onto a different floor. Catherine led me through a series of hallways to what looked like a luxury boutique that had been built inside the office building. We'll start with the basics. Business attire, casual wear, evening wear, shoes, accessories, everything. Mr. Cole expects a certain standard. The next 3 hours were a blur of fabric and fitting rooms. Catherine had an eye for what worked, and I watched my reflection transform from broke waitress to someone who might actually belong in Marcus's world. The clothes were beautiful, expensive, nothing like anything I'd ever owned. The apartment viewings are tomorrow, Catherine said as we finished. Mr. Cole has selected 3 options for you to choose from. All are furnished, all are in secure buildings. He's already picked them out. Mr. Cole is thorough. He doesn't leave things to chance. She handed me a sleek black credit card. For anything you need. Groceries, toiletries, whatever. The limit is generous. I stared at the card like it might bite me. This is too much. Get used to it. Working for Marcus Cole means living in a different world. The sooner you accept that, the easier this transition will be. That evening, I returned to my apartment one last time. Everything I owned fit into 2 duffel bags, a depressing realization. I sat on my mattress, surrounded by peeling paint and water stains, and tried to process what I'd just done. I'd sold myself. Not in the traditional sense, maybe, but sold myself nonetheless. Traded my independence for security, my freedom for protection. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Hello? It's Marcus. His voice sent shivers down my spine even through the phone. Everything goes smoothly with Catherine? Yes, it was overwhelming. You'll adjust. A pause. The driver will pick you up at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Be ready. I will. Emma. The way he said my name made me close my eyes. You made the right choice. I'll take care of you. You have my word. And what does your word mean, Marcus? Everything. In my world, it's the only currency that matters. Another pause. Sleep well. Tomorrow your new life begins. He hung up before I could respond. I lay back on the mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling, and wondered what I'd just gotten myself into. Part of me was terrified, but another part, a part I didn't want to acknowledge, was thrilled. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't alone. I wasn't just surviving. I belonged to someone, even if that someone was the most dangerous man I'd ever met. The sedan arrived at exactly 7:30. I was waiting outside my building, former building now, with my 2 duffel bags and a stomach full of nervous energy. The mountain loaded my bags into the trunk without a word, then held the door for me. This time, Marcus was inside. He looked devastating in a charcoal suit, freshly shaved, hair perfectly styled. He was reading something on a tablet, barely glancing up when I slid in beside him. Good morning, Emma. Good morning. He set the tablet aside, his dark eyes scanning me from head to toe. I was wearing one of the outfits Catherine had selected, a navy sheath dress with a fitted blazer, modest heels that were already making my feet ache. His gaze lingered, something like approval warming his expression. Perfect. You look the part. The part of what, exactly? Someone who belongs at my side. He shifted slightly, and suddenly the space between us felt smaller. First stop is your new apartment. You'll have time to settle in before we head to the office. The building we pulled up to made my breath catch. It was beautiful. All modern glass and steel with a doorman who greeted Marcus by name. We rode the elevator to the 15th floor, and when Marcus unlocked the door to Unit 1507, I stepped into a space that felt like a dream. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the open-concept living area with light. The kitchen had gleaming appliances I didn't know how to use. The furniture was contemporary and comfortable. There was actual art on the walls. The bedroom is through there, Marcus said, gesturing. Bathroom has a soaking tub. Building has a gym, pool, 24-hour security. I walked to the window, looking out at the city below. From up here, everything looked clean and orderly, beautiful. Nothing like the view from my old place. This is too much, I whispered. It's necessary. He came to stand beside me, close enough that our shoulders nearly touched. I need you rested, focused, safe. Can't have that if you're living in squalor. It wasn't squalor, Emma. He turned to face me fully. I've seen where you lived. Broken locks, mold in the corners, neighbors who deal drugs in the hallway. That's not living. That's barely surviving. The accuracy stung because it was true. I managed. You shouldn't have had to. His hand came up, and for a moment I thought he might touch my face. Instead, he dropped it. Get settled. We leave for the office in an hour. He left me alone in the apartment, and I spent the next 50 minutes wandering from room to room, touching surfaces I was afraid to mark with fingerprints, opening cabinets stocked with dishes and glasses I hadn't bought. Everything was perfect. Ready. Like someone had designed a life for me and I just had to step into it. The bedroom closet was already full of clothes. the ones from yesterday plus more I hadn't even seen. In the bathroom, expensive toiletries lined the counter. There was even a robe hanging on the back of the door, plush and white, and softer than anything I'd ever owned. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Same face, same body, but somehow I looked different, like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. Marcus's knock came at exactly 8:30. The office was chaos when we arrived. People moved with purpose through the sleek hallways. Everyone dressed in expensive suits, everyone looking important. They all straightened when they saw Marcus, offering respectful nods that he returned with barely a glance. His office, our office now, I supposed, was just as I remembered. He guided me to a smaller desk positioned near the window, already set up with a computer, phone, organized supplies. "This is yours," he said. "I'll start you simple. Answer the phone, take messages, manage my calendar. Catherine will check in throughout the day to help with anything you need. That's it. For now. I need you to learn how things work before I trust you with more." He moved to his own desk, began sorting through papers. "And Emma, everyone here knows you work directly for me. That means they'll either try to befriend you for access or avoid you out of fear. Trust no one completely. Not even you?" His smile was sharp. "Especially not me." The morning passed in a blur of phone calls and scheduling. I learned quickly that Marcus's world operated on a level of precision I'd never experienced. Every meeting had a purpose. Every minute was accounted for. People spoke in code. Names I didn't recognize, deals I didn't understand, references to things that sounded important, but meant nothing to me. Catherine appeared around 11, impeccable as always. "How's she doing?" she asked Marcus, like I wasn't sitting right there. "Better than expected." He didn't look up from his laptop. "Take her to lunch. Explain the landscape." We went to a cafe 2 blocks away, the kind where a sandwich cost $20 and came on artisan bread with ingredients I couldn't pronounce. "So," Catherine said once we'd ordered. "Questions?" "About 1,000. Start with the most important one." I took a breath. "What exactly does Marcus do? And don't say businessman. I need the truth." She studied me for a long moment, then sighed. "He imports and exports goods, manages investments, owns properties throughout the city, all legitimate, all legal. But some of his clients and associates operate in gray areas. He's connected to people most folks wouldn't want to be connected to. Powerful people. Dangerous people." She leaned forward. "Marcus himself? He's legitimate now. Built his empire carefully, legally. But he came from nothing, Emma, and men who climb that far that fast don't do it by playing nice." "You're saying he's dangerous. I'm saying he's protected. There's a difference. He has friends in very high and very low places. Cross him and you'll regret it. But earn his loyalty?" She smiled. "There's no safer place in this city than under Marcus Cole's protection." "And what does he want from me? Really? Honestly? I don't know. Marcus doesn't explain himself to anyone. But he's never done this before. Never brought someone in so quickly. Never set someone up so thoroughly. Whatever his reasons, you matter to him. I just can't figure out why. Neither could I." Back at the office, the afternoon brought meetings. I sat in on them, taking notes I barely understood, watching Marcus operate. He was commanding, decisive, comfortable with power in a way that seemed innate. People deferred to him automatically, even men twice his age with 3-piece suits and Ivy League degrees, and he was protective of me in subtle ways. When one associate's gaze lingered too long, Marcus shifted slightly, blocking me from view. When someone asked who I was, his answer was simple: "Mine. That's all you need to know." The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel safe. We worked until nearly 8. When Marcus finally stood, stretching slightly, I realized I was exhausted. "Come on," he said. "I'll take you to dinner. I should go home, get settled properly. You'll settle after you eat." He was already grabbing his jacket, clearly not accepting refusal. "There's someone I want you to meet." The restaurant was different from the one before. Smaller, more intimate, tucked away on a side street, Italian, based on the smells wafting from the kitchen. The owner greeted Marcus with a familiarity that spoke of years of patronage. We were led to a private room in the back, And waiting there was a man who made even Marcus look soft by comparison. Older, maybe 50, with silver threading through his dark hair and scars that spoke of a violent past. His eyes assessed me with the cold calculation of someone used to measuring threats. "Emma, this is Vincent, my oldest friend and most trusted advisor." Marcus gestured for me to sit. "Vincent, this is Emma Pierce, my new assistant." Vincent's eyebrow rose fractionally. "Assistant? Is that what we're calling it?" "That's what she is." Marcus's voice held a warning edge. "Of course." Vincent turned his attention to me. "Tell me, Emma, what did Marcus promise you to get you to work for him?" "Security. A better life." "And what did he tell you about what that would cost?" I met his gaze steadily. Loyalty, discretion, absolute trust. Something like respect flickered in Vincent's eyes. At least she's not naive. That's something. Dinner was served. Pasta that melted on the tongue, wine that probably cost more than my old monthly rent. The conversation flowed around me, Marcus and Vincent discussing business in that same code I'd heard all day, but I caught enough to understand that Vincent was testing me, seeing how I'd handle being included in discussions I shouldn't understand. I stayed quiet, observant, and I saw Vincent nod to Marcus at one point. Some silent communication passing between them. After dinner, Marcus drove me home himself. The mountain wasn't with us for once, and the intimacy of being alone in the car with him made my pulse race. "Vincent likes you," Marcus said as we pulled up to my building. "How can you tell? He didn't threaten you. That's practically a warm welcome from him." He turned off the engine, shifted to face me. "He's right, though. You're not naive. You know there's more to this than a simple job. I know you're not a simple businessman." "No, I'm not." His hand reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle, but possessive. "But everything I've told you is true. You work for me, you're protected, you're loyal to me, I take care of you. That's the deal. And if I want more than that, want to understand what I'm really part of?" His smile was dangerous. "Then you'll learn. In time. When I'm ready to show you." His thumb brushed my cheekbone. "But know this, Emma. Once you see that world, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to being innocent. Maybe I don't want to be innocent anymore." The heat that flared in his eyes made my breath catch. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he pulled back, that control reasserting itself. "Go inside. Get some rest. Tomorrow we have an event to attend, something more formal. Catherine will make sure you have something appropriate to wear." I got out of the car, legs unsteady, and watched him drive away. Upstairs in my beautiful new apartment, I stood at the window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was my old life, the diner, the falling apart apartment, the slow grind of poverty. I didn't miss it. I should have. Should have been terrified of how quickly I was adapting to this new world, how easily I was accepting Marcus's control over my life. But all I felt was anticipation for tomorrow, for whatever came next. The event was at a mansion in the hills, the kind of place that made my new apartment look modest. Catherine had delivered a gown that afternoon, midnight blue silk, that hugged every curve and fell to the floor in elegant waves. She'd also sent a stylist who did my hair and makeup, transforming me into someone I barely recognized. When Marcus picked me up at 7, the look in his eyes made my stomach flip. "You're stunning," he said simply, offering his arm. I took it, feeling the solid warmth of him through his tuxedo. "What is this event exactly?" "Charity gala. Very boring, very necessary. You'll smile, stay close to me, and let me handle the conversation." He guided me to the car where Vincent was waiting in the driver's seat. Even he was in a tux, looking slightly uncomfortable, but no less dangerous. The mansion was lit up like a palace, music and laughter spilling from the open doors. Marcus kept his hand on the small of my back as we entered, and I felt every eye in the room turn toward us. "They're staring," I whispered. "They're curious. I never bring anyone to these things." His hand pressed slightly firmer against my back. "Let them wonder." We circulated through the crowd, Marcus introducing me as his associate to people whose names I recognized from news articles and Forbes lists. I smiled, shook hands, said very little. But I watched everything. The way people deferred to Marcus. The carefully neutral expressions when they looked at me. The whispered conversations that stopped when we approached. I was beginning to understand the power he wielded. Not just money, though he clearly had plenty of that, but influence, fear, respect. We were near the bar when I felt it. That prickle of awareness that meant someone was watching. I turned and found myself looking at a woman across the room. She was beautiful in a sharp, expensive way. Blonde hair perfectly styled, red dress cut to show acres of pale skin. But it was the hatred in her eyes when she looked at me that made me step closer to Marcus. He noticed immediately, followed my gaze. His expression hardened. "Who is that?" I asked quietly. "No one who matters." But his hand had moved from my back to my waist, pulling me against his side in a possessive gesture that was unmistakable. "Stay close to me." The woman was crossing the room toward us now, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Marcus," she purred, "how lovely to see you. And with a date, no less. That's certainly new." "Vanessa." His tone was arctic. "Enjoying the party?" I was. Her eyes raked over me with open disdain. "Until I saw you'd brought your latest, what did you call her? Assistant?" "Emma works for me, yes. Is that what you're telling people?" She laughed, cruel and mocking. "How long do you think she'll last? A month? 2? Before you get bored and discard her like all the others?" I felt Marcus tense beside me. But before he could speak, I found my voice. "I'm not interested in whatever history you have with Marcus, but I'm also not someone you can dismiss that easily." I met her gaze steadily. "So why don't you move along and find someone else to bother?" Shock flashed across her face, followed by rage. But Marcus's low chuckle diffused the moment. "You heard her, Vanessa. Move along." She opened her mouth, closed it, then spun on her designer heels and stalked away. I could feel the attention of half the room on us. "That was either very brave or very stupid," Marcus murmured in my ear. "She was rude. She's also the daughter of a man I do business with." But he was smiling. "Still, watching you put her in her place was worth whatever headache this causes." We stayed another hour before Marcus decided we'd made enough of an appearance. In the car, Vincent was grinning. "I like her," he announced. "She's got spine, too much spine for her own good," Marcus replied. But there was affection in his voice. We dropped Vincent at his place. Then Marcus drove toward my apartment. But instead of taking the usual route, he pulled into an underground parking garage I didn't recognize. "Where are we?" I asked. "My place. I want to show you something." His apartment, penthouse really, occupied the entire top floor of the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360 view of the city. The decor was masculine and minimalist, all clean lines and dark colors, but it was the wall of photographs that caught my attention. "Come here," Marcus said, leading me to them. They were family photos, I realized. A younger Marcus, with a woman who had to be his mother. Same dark eyes, same sharp features, a little girl with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. Marcus as a teenager, arms around an older boy who looked like him. "Your family?" I asked softly. "Was." His voice was rough. "My mother died when I was 16. Cancer, like yours. My brother," he paused, jaw tight. "He was killed 3 years ago. Wrong place, wrong time. Caught in crossfire from a deal gone bad." "Marcus, I'm so sorry. My sister, the little girl in the photo. She's safe. Living in Europe with her husband, as far from this life as I could get her." He turned to face me. "I built all of this so she'd never have to struggle like we did, so she'd never have to be afraid." I understood then. The control, the possessiveness, the need to protect. He'd lost everyone he loved, and now he was trying to build something that couldn't be taken away. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I need you to understand. When I say you're mine, when I say I'll protect you, it's not just words. It's everything." He stepped closer, his intensity overwhelming. "You remind me of her, my mother. The same goodness, the same stubborn honesty in a world that punishes both. And I swore after she died that if I ever found that again, I'd do whatever it took to keep it safe. I'm not a thing to be kept, Marcus. No, you're so much more than that." His hand came up, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. "You're the first person in years I've wanted to trust. The first person who's looked at me and seen something worth believing in, instead of something to fear or use." "I do fear you," I whispered. "I know. But you're here anyway. That's what makes you extraordinary." His thumb traced my lower lip, and my breath caught. "Tell me to stop, Emma. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll take you home right now. You'll still have your job, your apartment, everything I promised. But tell me now. Because once I start, I won't be able to let you go." I should have said no. Should have maintained the professional distance. Protected my heart from a man who was clearly dangerous in more ways than one. But I'd spent my whole life playing it safe. And where had it gotten me? Alone, exhausted, barely surviving. "Don't stop," I breathed. His kiss was claiming, possessive. Everything I should have run from, but I melted into it. My hands fisting in his tuxedo jacket, pulling him closer. He backed me against the window, the city lights spreading out behind us, and kissed me like he was trying to prove a point, that I was his, that this was inevitable, that we'd been heading toward this moment since I'd made that phone call to return his wallet. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. "You're mine now," he said. "No going back." "I know. I'll be possessive, jealous, overprotective. I won't apologize for any of it. I wouldn't believe you if you did." His laugh was rough and genuine. "Smart girl." He kissed me again, softer this time. "Stay with me tonight. Let me show you what it means to be mine." I stayed. That night, wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets in Marcus's bed, his arm heavy and possessive around my waist, I realized I'd found something I hadn't even known I was looking for, a place to belong. Someone who wanted me not in spite of my flaws, but including them. A man who looked at me like I was precious, worth protecting, worth keeping. It was dangerous. It was probably insane, but it was mine. 3 months later, I stood in Marcus's office, our office, reviewing contracts like it was second nature. I'd learned the business inside and out, earned the respect of his associates, become indispensable in ways that went beyond the professional. Vincent had become like an uncle, gruff but protective. Catherine was now a genuine friend. And Marcus was everything. My boss, my protector, my obsession, the man who'd saved me from a life of slow desperation and given me purpose, security, and a love that was as fierce as it was unconventional. He walked up behind me now, arms circling my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. "Come home early tonight," he murmured. "I have something for you." "What kind of something?" "The kind that involves a ring and a very important question." My heart stopped. "Marcus, I told you that first night. Once I start, I don't let go." He turned me in his arms, his dark eyes intense. "You're mine, Emma. Have been since the moment you called to return a wallet you could have easily kept. Now I want to make it official. Legal, permanent." Tears pricked my eyes. "You're asking me to marry you?" "I'm telling you I'm going to marry you. The question is just a formality at this point." His smile was arrogant and loving all at once. "Say yes, Emma. Let me take care of you for the rest of our lives. Let me give you everything you deserve." I thought about the girl who'd worked herself to exhaustion for minimum wage, who'd lived in a falling-apart apartment and rationed meals, who'd been so alone she'd almost forgotten what it felt like to matter to someone. That girl was gone. In her place was a woman who'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice was also the right one. That love didn't always come in safe packages. That belonging to someone could be freedom instead of a cage. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." His kiss tasted like triumph and promise and forever. Outside the windows, the city spread out below us, the same city where a broke waitress had once returned a wallet to a stranger, not knowing it would change everything, not knowing it would lead her here, to love, to safety, to home, to Marcus. And I'd never been more grateful for a test I hadn't even known I was taking.